good day to you. Welcome to Herman Manyora's channel. My name is Jadiel Kabiro, here with the one and only Herman Manyora for today's political conversation. How are you doing today?
Good.
Just fine?
Fine, yeah.
Nothing new, nothing...
Well, I'm picking up.
Picking up, recovering?
Recovering, yeah.
Everything I hope will be okay?
Yeah, well, God is great.
God is good. Today's political conversation is about former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. You've always said that you are not ready to write him off, not now. He's a man, he's a magnet, he pulls everything that he wants towards his side. But let's start. We're going to look at several factors, and I hope you're going to declassify them for me. If you remove state support, Uhuru Kenyatta, from supporting Raila Odinga, we're speaking about how we can bring Raila down if Ruto is to win, the supporters of Ruto. If you remove state support, if you remove Uhuru's support for former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, can you then write him off?
If you remove support from Raila, state support, and transfer it to another person, in the manner in which it was accorded Kibaki in 2007, Uhuru and Ruto in 2013, 2017, then Raila will still face the same problem he has faced, that he could get the votes, but a few issues could be introduced to make you not get the presidency.
So you're saying that Raila has won elections before?
I'm one of those people who believe yes.
And then something happened that kicked him out.
Yes.
So where would you say if the support of the state goes, it will give Raila a run for his money really well?
Of course, if for example, it was now given to Ruto in the way it was in 2013 and 2017, Raila will still have a problem. Because Ruto has sufficient ground. You see?
Yeah.
So if you put state behind him, we are gone case
so
for
yes,
Raila.
So state support is going to impact his campaigns really well. Yes. And that would be a major factor if you want to
actually, if you want to look at it from a very objective, fair way, you'll say, by state support for Raila is meant the state just folds its hands, supports nobody. Because they have always stood in the way of Raila becoming president. So if they do not bring obstacles in Raila's way, and other things remain equal or constant, then he should get the presidency. But then the question will beg, will other things and everything else remain constant?
Yeah.
The answer will be no.
Oburu Odinga has been saying now that they have the state support, they're ready to get into the state house. So that's true.
It is true to the extent that Raila has so far not needed support of the state.
To get votes.
Yeah, the state has been making it impossible for him to become president. Because in Kenya, people do not know. We do not have a problem with our election per se. We only have a problem with the transition from one president to the next. Mambo inakwamia hapo. Yeah. So not the voting. The voting, we went beyond that. The days of carrying debts and throwing them in forests or rivers, we are past that.
Right now, it's just about transition.
It's just transition. Let's be very crude. Can we allow you to be president? Yes, you have won. That's where we are stuck.
Until we deal with
Raila,
that,
the answer has always been no. You will not be allowed. We will not allow you to be president.
But makes me wonder, shouldn't Ruto be concerned about this, even though we are not speaking about him?
You know, Ruto has been is an insider for now like 9 years. And there are things he knows. Maybe he's also a beneficiary. We are saying maybe. If the deep state narrative is true for 2013 and 2017, then he is part of it. Maybe he is confident.
He knows
I know the game.
He knows how to tweak it.
Yeah, I know the game. They will not play it against me.
Okay, let's talk about the alliances then for Prime Minister. He said he's playing a game of taking the kingpins and also going for the crowds at the same time. And this is where he's leading when it comes to pulling people towards his side. If he doesn't have the alliances that he has right now with the governors, would he still be able to pull the crowds to vote for him and put him into State House?
He will be taking the ball to dangerous territory. Because already Ruto has claimed that territory. You see?
The people.
Of the people, which has always been Raila's. Now, Raila is following Ruto behind in terms of speaking to the people directly. You know?
Yeah.
So, if he takes the ball and confines his game there, it's dangerous for Raila.
And says, yes, I have the alliances, but let me now focus.
No. If he says, I don't care about alliances, or if he loses them, and then say, no, me, I'm going to the people direct. Because you now be challenging Ruto there. And he has some advantage over you.
The advantage is right now because he started early.
Yeah.
And also something else.
And because you see, Ruto also gives some little kitu kidogo. No, Raila doesn't.
Allegedly.
It's not allegedly.
Allegedly.
I'm willing to go to court.
Okay, let's speak about then. If you go to the crowds, you also have to sell your ideas. If you take out the Azimio la Umoja that Raila has, and he doesn't push it the way he has been pushing it, and he comes up with something different, would you say now this is what Kenyans have been waiting for, and they will lead him to the presidency? Because right now, Azimio la Umoja, as much as it's doing well, we both know that it's not doing as well as the hustler narrative.
If we look at both the hustler narrative and the Azimio, then we will have to agree that in terms of pulling the people, the hustler has an upper hand over Azimio for now. Now, the next thing you are saying, can Raila come up with something else?
Yes.
You know Raila is capable of coming up with anything. So if he comes up with something, and that something is stronger than hustler, then it will be very good for him.
Do you think there is anything that will sell more than the hustler narrative currently in the country?
Of course.
If you always said you'll put your feet...
That's Raila's domain.
You've said you'll put your feet in the Indian Ocean. Can you come up with something
no, but you have to pay me.
Uh,
You don't just go to Mombasa and put your feet in the Indian Ocean for nothing.
what do you think Kenyans want to hear right now?
It's basically hope. The country is in a state of hopelessness, despair. And that's why the hustler narrative is sinking in the manner in which Make America Great was resonating with Americans, because they were at a state at their lowest. Yeah, Kenyans are at their lowest. And they want something that brings hope.
You've always said that the hustler narrative is more populist.
Of course, populist.
So do you think hope will become populist enough to beat the hustler narrative?
If you bring something that plays both the populist game and the realist game, you appeal to both the reasonable man and the ordinary voter in the streets. It's a balance. To create that is what Raila needs to do. First of all, to try as much as possible to poke holes into the hustler narrative. Not him alone. It must be a strategy of doing that. Come up with the tactics, which are a product of a strategy. To really water it down, while at the same time beefing up Azimio la Umoja and looking around for something more sexy, you know. Yeah.
Sexy enough for the people.
Yes.
Okay, let's wrap this conversation up with the track record. It has always been in Ruto's campaign strategy to come out and say, we have done this, we have done that for our people since we took over the government, even though sometimes he goes ahead and says the government has failed on some various issues. Would you say if we come up and took a look at Ruto's track record and Raila's track record, Raila will lose more? Ruto versus Raila in terms of track record?
Two things. Number one, elections are really about what people have done. If you work very well as an MP and you want to be re-elected, if you think you'll be re-elected merely on the basis of what you have done, forget about it. The man who came up with CDF, who was the best man behind CDF, he was not re-elected. It was called Karue or something like that.
Oh.
He didn't even win. Look, despite the magic of CDF then, he wasn't re-elected. Hamisi from the coast, the same. Best performing, nothing. So it's not that. That's number one. Number two, of course, it will depend on how people are making the assessment. What are you choosing to look for? If you are looking for what Ruto has done as who, and yet he says he's not part of the government, you get it? Or if you say he did in the first term, which means it was him who was doing and not Uhuru Kenyatta. So when you're subject to scrutiny, it may not work. But even if you are just to be generous to both of them, and you begin to identify so-and-so has done this, so-and-so has done this, you may find either they balance off or one beats the other or one whitewashes the other. So it depends on what you are looking for.
So basically Kenyans do not care about track records.
I don't think they care.
They only care about populist ideas.
Because if you are looking at, that's why I say, this politics can put us in a very awkward position. Having to compare Raila with somebody like Ruto, you know, it's a very awkward state to be in. How can you? If you are talking about what somebody has done, a lot of what this country is because of Raila.
From the days of multi-party.
How then are you going to compare Raila with Ruto? Many of the things, I mean, if you were to be honest, not a question of you support Raila or Ruto, if you are to be honest, how can you possibly compare Raila with Ruto? Where is the point of comparison? If you look at what Raila has paid for dearly to bring to this country, my friend, who else would have, who in living today in this country, the things people like Matiba did, and they paid this for They sacrifice family. The people sacrifice family. People sacrifice life. People, Matiba, sacrifice property. They sacrifice health. Rubia, Raila was in detention for 9 years to make Kenya what it is today. People like Martin Shikuku. There are people who are paid dearly for this country. Now to be forced to pick from that crowd an individual, an icon like Raila, and to be forced to compare him with Ruto is tragic.
So should people look at the track record, or because people don't?
So when you say you are comparing, I'm saying what aspects are you comparing?
Yeah.
If it's a question of infrastructure, you could always argue these are business plans. If you say SGR, and you say I'm Ruto and I've done it with Ruto, but Raila will say these are the things we did with Kibaki. They came to the implementation. It was already there. It was being implemented. Actually, it is Uhuru and Ruto who took up the SGR, and that's the genesis of the difference between Uhuru and Jimmy Wanjigi. And that's why Jimmy Wanjigi supported Raila in 2017.
Yeah.
Why? Because they came and took up an idea that was already ready for implementation, SGR, and they almost doubled the cost.
Oh.
So where will you start?
Ah.
What is it you will say you have done? People compare, for example, Kibaki. If you ask them, what has Kibaki done in infrastructure? Keep quiet.
Yes.
Thick highway. 30 kilometers. How many kilometers have Uhuru done? You know, so it's very difficult to make a serious comparison. The parameter you choose will always be shaky.
So should people look more at the track record, or look at the ideas that someone is trying to bring out?
I think my understanding of track record will be, when Raila stands there, and Mudavadi stands there, and Ruto stands there, how can my knowledge of them, how can the past, the present, help me see who among them can craft a good future for my grandchildren? Oh. That to me is a better way.
Past, present, reflect the future.
So, but if you say track record, you say what people have done for this country, you'll need to go and bring back Matiba from the death and Jaramogi Oginga Odinga to compare him with Raila. It can't be Ruto.
Okay.
I mean, these are men and women, Wangari Maathai, people who have given everything to this country. People, whether you vote for them today or not, when children of our children and their children read the history of this country, you will not erase Matiba from the history, even if Ruto has become president.
Okay. At what point
he will be a footnote in the history of Kenya.
At what point then should we look at former Prime Minister
Because
Raila
how many presidents are in America? 90% of American presidents are just footnotes in American history. You know, you have been a president for 8 years, but you are mere footnote.
No one knows what you did.
Nobody. So, even if Uhuru is finishing his term, other than being the son of a president, there's no comparison between Uhuru and Jaramogi Oginga Odinga in the history of this country. 200 years to come, 500 years to come. You will not, even if Ruto becomes president, when the history of this country is written, you will not compare Ruto with Matiba. So when you say track record, I don't understand it.
So should someone, as they're campaigning, be able to tell us that this is what is going to make this country great, so that we can be able to vote for them? Is that what you want to see?
What I want to see is message of hope. And I know Raila, and I want to sit down with him one of these days. He's just afraid. There's so much he can do, but he's holding himself back because he wants votes.
Last time you said the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak.
I'm telling you. Because if somebody like me, like Manyora, who is not indebted to anybody, and I said I wanted to be president, and I say the things I will do, if I had some support like he has, I will get all the votes in the morning. Because there's so much you can do to give Kenyans hope. First, by returning the country to the people. This country doesn't belong to Kenyans. This country belongs to other people. This country belongs to foreigners and a few of their collaborators in this country to bring the country back. You get?
Yes.
In many respects.
So
let Kenyans own their country. Let us do what we can do to enjoy what is within our borders, as Raila keeps saying. Plenty be found within our borders. But we have made Kenya as a country an enterprise. A few people use Kenya to enrich themselves. You see, who among these people can speak to that. Any one of them? Doesn't say only Raila can, but is held back.
The flesh is weak.
Yeah.
Well, at the end of this conversation, what you're trying to basically say is that it's difficult to write him off.
Raila?
Yes.
Only a fool would. And in the fullness of time, we will sit here, hope our chairs will not have been worn. If they are still
we'll
there,
get some new ones.
under this shade, or we'll be in a better studio. Maybe we'll have got a corporate body to sponsor us, so that we can record in a very decent place, perhaps with a tie and a better suit.
Yeah, a better suit.
We will be discussing why Raila is only waiting for swearing in.
Let me wrap it up at that, because once I let him speak, he'll continue more and more, and then the conversation will not end. Until we do have these conversations again, thank you so much for tuning in. If you're a corporate, Mr. Manyora has said if you can get us somewhere and a better suit for me, that would be a good thing for us. Until we do have these conversations again, have yourself a lovely rest of your day.